of the kids would be proficient. And that's because of where they set the cut scores. That's really different than if you have 100 questions. A scale score means how many actual questions does somebody get right and how many did they get wrong. A cut score means that somebody can say that, say, of 100 questions, 20 questions mean 70% proficiency. That's the difference between a cut score and a scale score.
May I say that my 69 got scaled up to an 81%.
Can I ask when those cut scores are determined?
See, that's part of what I was hoping.
Since this process began was if we're going to instruct to the standards, the assessments should match that. And I have read my standards over and over, stories, drama, and poetry at the high end of grades 4 to 5 text complexity. And unfortunately, the assessments that my students take are not written at that complexity. It's much greater. So I just asked over and over again, please allow the standards to match the assessments. And you will see, watch students go from being in a blended inclusion program backstreamed into a 15-1-1 position. And I just want to know, what does the state want for these children who have learning disabilities? My goal has always been I am also a mother of a daughter. She's 21 on Monday, and she has declared her major to be an elementary education teacher. And I am, before New York State and these assessments, I told anybody who would listen that our profession is the best profession there is. And I have a daughter who is walking into that profession, and I am just hoping she can find the same pleasure and the same appreciation for bringing new learning to students. And it's not all the committee chair on our APPR committee, and we are one of 242 districts who applied and were accepted for the hardship waiver. That should tell us something. Superintendent who's telling me, oh well, Carolyn, we can't just automatically assume that we're going to be working under 3012D. We got to reapply in March and have that renewed. And to me, that's bedlam. And I'm just asking that this year we need to figure this out, and we should not make the hardship waiver any harder than we've had it.
Can I just ask you one before we have the last person to come forward?
Yes, it did.
And so could you tell us what the difference might have been between the testing of special needs students pre-CommonCore now?
Well, the biggest thing is that we have to look, again, where I've been asking all along is the reading levels and the difficulty of the assessment and the amount of time that the kids have to sit for the assessment. And we shouldn't expect those kids to meet the same standard.
So the reading levels were higher or were distant in your judgment?
Fifth text complexity, and we have done readabilities on some of the passages now that they've been released, and they're anywhere from 7th to a 9th grade readability. And you are expecting children to read critically on a multiple choice assessment, which they are going back to the text multiple times. And most of our kids, and I'm sorry, I know I said I've been saying one thing over and over, I've been saying two things over and over. They don't even finish the test because of the practice that is needed in order for them to accomplish the goal of answering the question. Because many times they have to revisit the passage, and then on top of it, the struggle with our special needs students that
teacher of 10-year-olds, and I'm here to speak from my heart, because that's what teachers do. We are in this profession because we are passionate about children and the learning of our children. I've been teaching 5th grade at Pioneer Middle School, a regular education setting, for 23 years. The first 3/4 of my career, I was teaching under the consultant teacher model, where I might have maybe 2, maybe 3 pretty well, because I am not a special educator. And so I depended on the expertise of that special educator to help me enrich my children. And we had pretty good results. Since then, and when the standards have changed, as well as the testing, our needs of our children are changing. The pressure is on those special education students, and I have had more and more identified children in my classroom. Last year, I had 10 children identified in my classroom out of a classroom of 22, with a consultant model still. Those passages in the reading should be leveled. Those children cannot read at that level, and yet their hearts are in the work as well. They try and try and try, and they work and they cry through those tests. I just asked if we could mandate that, we could enrich all children. We could group. We would have a special education teacher as well as a TA tied to the regular ed teacher. So I hope that you're listening to that component of it. And also,
did not get a chance to register to make testimony. So come on. So we will take, it'll still be 3 minutes.
I represent students who are from a high poverty district. I wanted to state my conviction that basically the CommonCore as it's being implemented now, I'm convinced is going to increase the achievement gap. Because in the, with upper middle class kids, they're going to enlist every resource they have. For the kids that we deal with who are often plagued by parents who have involvement with the criminal justice system, they're more likely to live in a one-parent home. They're not going to be able to marshal the financial resources for all of the private tutoring, et cetera, that their wealthier students would be able to avail themselves of. I also wanted to state that, the curriculum is, I'm not going to argue that they don't have value, but I think that they're more likely to disengage our students. I think that the curriculum that this is built on, the Hirsch curriculum, it's a Eurocentric curriculum, and it's very disengaging to urban youth. Okay, so I'll speak against the curriculum, and furthermore, I think that it's counter to sound educational research. Even the testing, I'll give a short anecdote about Gordon, who's I read in college. It was a difficult selection, excerpted, so with different royal titles that made no sense to the student. And he turned to me and said, why does the school district want me to fail this test? And I think it was, it's causing students to lose faith in the educational system. It's causing them to feel betrayed by the people who educate them. It's not good educational research. And before the CommonCore, we were moving in the direction of addressing the fact that there are individual differences with learning. I think everybody remembers the kinesthetic learners, the musical learners. CommonCore goes against every tenet of that. That basically there's one kind of learner, and this is the way you're going to learn. And if you can't master every subject, knowing algebra, being able to draw an equation, write a paragraph about an equation, and do the equation in the way that you have been instructed, then you're a failure. I think it's very damaging. I think it's going to destroy a whole generation of students. I think they were. They did begin with an easier reading selection. They began with a listening section. They ended with a critical lens. Perhaps it's just that we had years of dealing with it, maybe 10 years. That's been around more than that, probably 15. And so it's
to protect the teachers from those in Albany. It became necessary when they started looking over their shoulders and teaching to standards, I think, are important. Ranking teachers with the tests from those standards is absolutely absurd. It's as silly as the psychometricians telling me, well, Jeff, we have to have the field test questions embedded in the standardized test. Otherwise, the kids won't pay attention. And then 2 weeks later, telling me that I need to take teachers, again, away from instruction to have standalone field tests. So either they're not going to pay attention during the standardized test, so I've been sending the field test questions back. I'm 63, do what you have to do to me. I'm not going to stop instruction 2 weeks later to do field test questions. You can help some of our perfectionist type kids, our highest performers, help them by putting, if we continue with this, putting the field test questions at the end of the standardized test. They have a chance then, especially the highest performing kids who will not leave a question until they are absolutely done with it. They have a chance of finishing the test that is ultimately rating their teachers. There are some things that can change. I've talked to members of your commission, a parent from my community that sits on the commission, please take the APPR piece away from this CommonCore piece so that you can have a calm, logical, rational discussion about the CommonCore and where we can go for what's best for our kids. Take this doubling down technique. I'm going to tell you something. What gets the attention of the legislators is when I say, you know, if we stay where we are in this APPR, 50% of my teachers, pardon the pronoun, but that's how I think about it, are going to be in danger of an improvement plan, and they have done nothing but improve year after year after year. We must stop this. We must decouple this so you can have your conversations and so that we don't kill the profession that is so dear to this nation's past and to our kids' future. Please, and if you need me to say anything else, anywhere else, just call.
Yes.
My name is Christine Belangi, and I coordinate the teacher education and teacher assistant program here for Genesee Community College. I almost couldn't ask for a better segue. One of the things that I'm concerned about is the decline in the numbers of students that are seeking teacher education certification. At this point in time, I know I'm not alone. We're a transfer program, so we're a feeder program into many of the SUNY schools, the private schools as well. And we've seen the numbers drop dramatically, in some places over 50%. And at the same time, we're having conversations about current and anticipated teacher shortages in New York State. And so I'm really, really concerned about it. And I think it's a reflection of many things. In part, some of the things that we've even heard here today, morale within the ranks of the teachers. In the past, when my students did their field observations, teachers would cry when they heard that their former students were following in their footsteps. Now, many of them have cautionary tales for the students, and they're saying to them, gee, I don't know if this is a good choice. The profession isn't what it used to be. And lots of students are being discouraged, students that are passionate. And so I just felt that it was important that I share that because I guess in some ways because of all that you've said and all that you've done, students, teachers, family members, superintendents, I just think that, we have to look out for the profession as well and the future of the profession. So, thank you.
Hi, my name is Debbie Pat. I'm a parent. I'm not an educator. I have an 11-year-old son who's in 6th grade. You may have seen him out here with me a few minutes right before we started. My son is a straight-A student, and I want to put a personal face to this. He is a high achiever. He's basically a cure. He's amazing. He plays violin. He's a junior black belt in karate. He's working on being an Eagle